All right. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us. I appreciate you being here. I want to start off by acknowledging Alder Knox, who is here with us. Thank you for joining us, Alder. And I want to thank Dr. Anthony and Ed Lee and the Urban League for hosting us here in the new, not yet open Black Business Hub. I'm so excited about this building and what is going to happen in it. This building is designed to help address disparities in Black business ownership in our community. It's a space that will help us incubate, accelerate, and network. It will have offices, retail, co-working, and promote collaboration here in South Madison. And I'm just really impressed with the work that the Urban League of Greater Madison has done to make this building a reality. And as you can see, it is still under construction, but it is getting closer every day. So thank you again for hosting us. Really appreciate it. And of course, the Urban League does great work in our community and in South Madison in particular, and I'm very appreciative of Dr. Anthony's leadership. I want to thank the community leaders that are here with me for this capital budget announcement and others who have been involved in key projects. So obviously, Dr. Anthony, but also Dr. Daniels, who saw that locating Madison College on the south side of Madison could help catalyze great things in this neighborhood. Thank you, Dr. Daniels, for being the spark that has sparked this renaissance. I also want to thank Dr. Ken Loving, who, along with Access Community Health, is providing access, really deeply needed access to health care in South Madison and across the city of Madison. I want to thank the UW partnership, and particularly Brenda Gonzalez, who works to connect the resources of UW-Madison into the community here on the south side and across our community. And I want to thank other folks, Dr. G, who is working on the Center for Black Excellence in Culture, which is going to be right down the street, that is helping to elevate Black culture in Madison and provide a space for that. I want to thank Dr. Karen Menendez-Collar, who is growing Centro Hispano's presence in this neighborhood. That's an organization that has been the heart of our Latinx community for a long time, and they are finally going to have a beautiful new space to grow and thrive in. I'm so excited about that project. So, right down the block from here. I also want to thank Reverend Allen, who has long supported Madison's youth and our community, and is now working on creating a new community center here at Mount Zion. And Vanessa McDowell Atlas from the YWCA, who is investing in housing and economic development on the south side of Madison. Also, right across the street, we have Park Bank investing in this community, and there's many, many small businesses and entrepreneurs here in the Villager, but across South Madison, that make this part of town so special. Over the past few years, the city has worked with the South Madison community to establish a vision and a plan for South Madison. And with the capital budget that I am introducing today, we are taking some important steps towards implementing that vision. The city's Community Development Authority, through a series of public-private partnerships, will be creating new housing and economic development on the south side. Right here at the intersection of Badger and Park, we will be spending over $27 million to create new housing, a new fire station, and a new public health clinic. Up at the Triangle, on the other end of Park Street, we are investing $11 million to create 1,200 new units of housing. And together, these projects will leverage millions in federal and state tax credits. Connecting those two with each other and with the entire region will be the north-south line of our bus rapid transit system. This will reduce congestion and pollution in our community. It will provide faster access to job centers, especially for underserved populations. For example, it represents a 120% increase in access for the Latinx community, a 92% increase in access for the Black community, and a 90% increase for low-income residents of Madison. This will be funded by a combination of federal, state, and local funding, and if we can leverage that federal funding, it will include the reconstruction of Park Street, which will allow us to make this gateway into the city a much more beautiful and human-scale street, which is, I think, really important with all of the exciting work that's going on down here in South Madison. We want people to feel welcomed. We want people to feel safe, and like this is a center of activity because there is a lot going on in South Madison. Of course, this budget is not just focused on the south side of Madison. It's focused on the entire city. One of local government's most fundamental responsibilities is to provide the infrastructure that meets our basic needs, supports our local economy, and allows us to go about our daily lives safely and efficiently. Our city is growing rapidly. In fact, population growth is exceeding all of our expectations, and we are projected to have over 400,000 residents by 2050. That growth puts demands on our buildings, on our infrastructure, and on our finances. My capital budget invests in the basics that our community needs. It invests to support safe communities and strong neighborhoods, and it looks to the future with investments in affordable housing and climate action. I want to highlight just a few of the projects that are in this capital budget. We are increasing our investment in affordable housing to $94 million over 6 years. That's an increase of 60% from last year's capital improvement plan. We are investing $19 million over 6 years to help people purchase and rehab homes and to provide property tax relief to seniors so they can stay in their homes. This budget fully funds the construction of Madison Public Library's Imagination Center in Rindall Park. It continues to invest in our stormwater system to make improvements to reduce flooding across our community, which is sorely needed because, as we know, climate change is just going to keep coming for us with bigger and bigger storms. So we have to be ready and prevent flooding. This budget invests in pollution mitigation systems to reduce PFAS in our drinking water, and it invests in reconstructing the John Nolan Drive bridges thanks to President Biden's bipartisan infrastructure law. We are able to reconstruct those bridges and to begin investing in the Lake Monona waterfront redesign, which I'm very excited about. And this budget invests in small businesses across our community, just like the small businesses that will be supported by this business hub. We are also continuing to aggressively pursue renewable energy for both ourselves and our community. And I want to thank Dr. Anthony for seeing the value of solar panels and investing in solar for this building. We see the same value for our buildings, and we will continue to put solar on all of our public buildings and to support folks in doing so in private buildings as well. Along the way, we are going to leverage every single state and federal dollar that is available to us. We are facing increased inflationary pressures across the city, and so in order to reduce the burden on local property taxpayers, we want to make sure that we access as much state and federal funding as possible. Unfortunately, the city is held back by a state legislature that does not believe in returning to Madison a fair portion of what our city's residents provide to the state in sales and income taxes. After decades of declining state aid, we had hoped that a historic state budget surplus would result in increased support for the state's fastest growing city. Unfortunately, Madison received an increase of less than 1% of our total budget from the state. So the state is not going to help. Luckily, federal investment will help the city meet our growing capital needs For example, the Federal Inflation Reduction Act will provide us as city government with up to $13 million in federal tax credits to help finance solar, geothermal, electric vehicles, and EV charging infrastructure. And the bipartisan infrastructure law is providing historic levels of funding, particularly for things like the John Nolan Drive bridges, but also for things like passenger rail service. And Amtrak has identified Madison as a connection on the future Hiawatha service extension. This budget includes more planning funds to continue pursuing a new Amtrak station and Amtrak service here in Madison. And I want to thank the President and Senator Baldwin for their work in securing federal funds for the city of Madison. As I said, federal funds are helping to fund our capital improvements, but they cannot fill the hole that is left by the lack of shared revenue from the state. Despite these challenges, my capital budget makes careful investments to maintain and improve our critical infrastructure, to help address the challenges we are facing as a community, and to enhance key community institutions, all while balancing the long-term impacts of borrowing. With these investments, we are continuing to build a better, greener, and more resilient Madison. Before I close and take questions, I'd like to thank our finance staff, and particularly Finance Director Dave Schmidtke and our budget manager Christine Coe and their team for all of their hard work on this budget. I want to thank again the community leaders that have joined us here today. I want to thank the Urban League of Greater Madison for hosting us, and all of the city agencies who worked for months to put together their capital proposals for us to consider. And again, I want to say thank you, particularly to President Biden, for the support that the federal government has shown through grants and credits to the city of Madison. I look forward to discussing this budget with the City Council. We're introducing it at the City Council meeting tonight. And I thank them in advance for their support for these important projects and this budget. And with that, I'd be happy to take questions about the budget.
Madison is on record rates of homicides this year. A woman was beaten within an inch of her life on Wilson Street last weekend. Does your budget include anything for public safety?
Yes, in fact, we're making significant investments in the police department's infrastructure. Because this is a capital budget, we're only talking about buildings and infrastructure. I would say stay tuned for the executive operating budget, which will come in a couple of weeks, where we talk about people and investments in staffing. But one thing that this budget does include is a new evidence facility for the police, which has been the #1 request from the chief, so that they can deal with the increased volume of evidence that they need to process.
You know, what's something that maybe got left out with the shared revenue plan not giving as much back?
So the shared revenue has the biggest impact on our operating budget, and I'll be talking more about that when we talk about operating. But every year, including this year, we get more requests for capital investments from agencies than we are able to responsibly fund, because we're trying to manage the impact of borrowing on our operating budget. And so there are a number of projects that didn't make it into my capital budget this year, or that were pushed out farther into the capital improvement plan, because in any given year we want to really be responsible about the amount of money that we're projecting to borrow. Any other questions? So we are very excited about the prospect of bringing Amtrak service to Madison, and what's happening right now is two things. Firstly, my capital budget has for several years now invested in exploring where an Amtrak station would be in Madison, and we are making progress on that, and should have something to take out to the community for input shortly. At the same time, WSDOT has requested to the Federal Railroad Agency, Federal Railroad Agency, to go into what's called corridor development, which would say basically we're looking at passenger rail service between Milwaukee and Madison. And we are waiting to see if we've been accepted into that process or not. I'm hopeful that we will find out this fall. If we are, then we can start the planning process for that corridor, working very closely, obviously, with WSDOT and with the other communities that would be impacted along the way. If we get into the process, there are then, I think, 2 more steps that we have to work through to be accepted by the Federal Railroad Administration before we would actually be in a position to have service. So we're at the beginning of the process, but it's very important for us as a community, I think, to keep pushing and to continue to say that we really want this service so that the folks at the federal level and also at Amtrak will continue to prioritize this particular corridor. Any other questions? All right, thank you all very much. I want to thank again the Urban League for letting us be in this beautiful, if unfinished space, and all of you for coming. Have a great rest of your day. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Appreciate you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thanks.
Get ready for an improved news experience. The all-new Channel 3000 News app is here. Tailored for your news the way you want it with a customizable home page. Stay informed effortlessly. Swipe through articles without returning to the home screen. And no more waiting. The new app loads faster than ever, ensuring you get news updates instantly. Download the all-new Channel 3000 News app today. Your gateway to news your way. Powered by News 3 Now.